you all have kept up with this document because this tells you who our facilitators are and how phenomenal they are. So please take a couple minutes to familiarize yourself with what kind of talent we have in the room. Well, Jay Ivy comes from Chicago, and he has been in the business for a while, and he has worked with just about everybody, and I mean everybody, really heavy hitters. He's an award-winning poet. He's an artist. He's an author. He's a songwriter. He's a voiceover talent. He's a motivational speaker and an actor. Only thing he's not doing tonight is dancing, and we took care of that with Jeremy, right? All right. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about you, Jay Ivy, because they can read it right here. It's laid out in black and white. We want to spend the rest of this time for the next 10 or so minutes listening to Jay Ivy. Come right up.
Good evening, Memphis. How y'all doing? Is that mic working? Can I use this mic over here? Can y'all hear me? Hello, hello, hello. Good evening. How y'all doing? How you feeling? What's up, Memphis? It's really, 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 really good to be here. Truly an honor to stand within these walls and have a chance to share my gift and be amongst so many beautiful, talented, gifted, loving people. So I just wanted to say what's up. And man, again, excited to be here. So again, my name is Jay Ivy, and I'm from Chicago. And Chi-Town in the building, we in here? Yeah. Oh, we deep. Rituals, and what's up? Wow, taking me back. Rituals, for those that don't know, that was a special place in Chicago is where we gathered on Sundays to do poetry. And, you know, had the likes of Reggie Gibson and Malik Youssef and a host of other amazing poets. So from Chicago, and I had this teacher in high school named Miss Argue. And what I learned is you're not going to argue with somebody named Miss Argue. Yeah. So Ms. Argue, she had us write a poem for homework, and I wasn't into poetry, hip hop. Those were my MCs. Those were my poets, the MCs. And she had us write a poem, so I wasn't really confident in my writing. And I wrote this poem, and I go to class the next day expecting to turn it in. And Ms. Argue surprises the class and she makes the entire class read their poem in front of the class. So here I am, this very shy, non-confident kid who was forced to do a poem. And I read my poem, rushed through it. But Ms. Argue, she pulls me to the side of the class and she gives me an A on the poem. And I wasn't getting no A's or B's. And I was, you know, she had my attention. You know, I couldn't believe I had this A on this page staring back at me. And then she said, "You have a nice speaking voice. I want to put you on the show." I'm like, "Nah, Ms. Argue, you going too far?" You know, so I didn't do the show. A few weeks go by, Ms. Argue approaches me again. She said, "Look, last time I asked you to do a show, you didn't do it. So this time, I'm not asking you. I got another show, I'm not asking you. You have to do it." So I'm like, and it was something about the challenge that made me say, okay, what do I have to do? So she gives me this piece to learn. And I rehearsed for weeks and weeks and weeks. And my first time ever on stage, as nervous as I was, hands shaking, knees shaking, scared I'm gonna forget what I got to say, and you know, worried about what everybody go think. And here I am sitting in front of a room full of strangers, and you know, I felt peculiar and odd on that stage. And at the end of my performance, I got a standing ovation. And immediately I fell in love with the idea of knowing that I did have a voice, knowing that people would listen, knowing that I had a story to share, and there was a lot of power in the exercise of sharing your story and just being able to communicate what your soul felt it needed to communicate. So after that, I'm like, Miss Argue, when's the next show? When's the next show? When's the next show? When's the next show? And I continued on looking for that feeling of sharing my voice and seeing the reaction that I would get and the love that would be interchanged in that performance, in that moment. And what it taught me was that words have power. And it also taught me and it showed me that it's important to have balance. So I've always been looking for balance. I've always been looking for that cool. I just want to be cool. They judge you before your eyes even open. Off jump, they coming for your throat before words even spoken. When you touch down, you got to let them know that you get things in motion, but be clear. They feel your dedication. They feel your devotion. They love and hate your skin tone, treat you like an immigrant when you've been home, bronze like the pennies the brother Abe owned, envy is the drug that they own. Every breath I take is a hit, 'cause we're striking like the ancient Egyptians they clone. Our people are beautiful down to the bone, down to the soul. We in the city of God 'cause the slums is all they want us to know, and they think we ain't know. Thought you was just street smart. Can't understand how you come up with this street art. Didn't understand they was dealing with men, women, mothers, fathers too. Yeah, some of ours slipped through the cracks, but the ones that we put nothing above, the way they look up to us, man, that's beautiful. Fly like the saucer's being flown. Yo, they tapping your lines, so use your thoughts to iPhone home. Send moms a highlight tape of this Twilight Zone. We're extraordinary, extraterrestrial. ETs got them uneased. Now they building space stations trying to police the ozone. Oh, no. They trying to protect their borders from illegal aliens visiting from other worlds. We were sent here by way of God's referral. Peel back our skin and see our light. Peel back the layers and see our fight. Get high off life. Rest your head on the cloud. Dodge them chemtrails. If the walls could talk, they tell they wouldn't want to walk in our shoes and listen to the tales our Tims tell. Came from heavens, now we dwell in hell. Enslaved by a country that still hates me, wants me in jail. Discriminates against us, want to hold us down, man. We too profound. That's why they want us to behave. Show us how they feel with 12 years a slave. Media hop on the field and they run they plays. All day they say and replay that you a thug, you a. All he want is our women, our gold, our figures. Ain't nothing but an animal with his claws on the trigger. There's a difference between brands and labels. They invite you to the table and try and label your brand. Change the beat of your band or orchestrate the land with your hand. Man, the challenge is staying balanced. Never too high. Never too low, stuck in the middle with a mean flow, a mean show. I see you, sis, I see you, bro. You can move any room, work any crowd. They can't quiet your loud, so keep feeding them and feeding them. It ain't black versus white, it ain't rich versus poor. It's wrong versus right, and what's right is that the babies keep eating and eating. You ain't never been a fool, so just remember to use your tools, be you, and no matter what they do, always remember that you go be cool. Thank you. So always from that first moment of Miss Argue showing me that, you know, the power of words, I look for that. I looked for that balance, that cool, and I found it with every poem that I wrote, with every performance. I learned about myself. I learned about others. I saw the power of creativity and the power of our words. And over time, you know, it became very therapeutic. You know, it became a need. I need to write. I need to sit my black, narrow behind down and write. Yeah, the hustle got me hustling, but I'm muscling myself at a time for me. Well, what about me, I ask? What about the stories that I need to tell? I need to write, because can't nobody do it for me. Can't nobody document my inspirations the way I can. Can't nobody compliment my aspirations the way I can. Only I can, only I can, only I can. So I need to write. I need to gather up some words and write. I need to gather up some thoughts and write. I need to write because I'm tired of hearing the same old pieces. I know y'all tired of hearing the same old pieces because the same old pieces got the same old problems, but I got new problems, more problems, problems that change, problems that rearrange, This homeless cat asked me for some money but got mad at me because I ain't got no spare change. I need to write. Me and my girl been arguing. I need to write. My boy told me to take it to the next level, so I need to write. My pops died and it's hard dealing with it. I need to write. I know y'all can't wait for the book. I need to write. They done stole my hoopty. I need to write. My little brother got mugged by some grown thug. I need to write. I need to write. My ex tried to get my boy. I need to write. The weatherman acting awfully funny. I need to write. Cops killing brothers. Cops killing sisters. Free Mamiya. I need to write. Oh, you saying I'm bogus because I didn't come to your event because I was tired? I need to write. I distinctly remember asking for 6 wings with mild sauce. Why is it I only have 4? I need to write. I think about writing in third person because the first is hurting. Life is a job and the verse is working. My soul's rehearsing for when the good Lord pulls the curtain. Words are words, and maybe it's your actions that's doing the cursing. I said, I think about writing in third person when the first is hurting. Life is a job and the verse is working. My soul's rehearsing for when the good Lord pulls the curtain. Words are words, so maybe it's your actions that's doing the cursing. I need to write. Just yesterday, and I mean just yesterday, it was illegal for me to write. Where my pen at? I need to write. So, all right. Has the 10 minutes started yet? Has the 10 minutes started? Okay. So I wrote, and writing became very therapeutic. And again, each piece, it wasn't just a piece on a page. It was like a piece of a mirror. And the self-reflection became more and more clear, more and more evident. And then when I would look into that mirror, you know, you can't help but look at the things that you like, love, the things that you don't like, the things that you hate. And one of the things that I hated the most about my life was the fact that my father wasn't in it. You know, it really, really struck me and tore me up to the core. And it was poetry that, and the power of forgiveness that lifted me out of that moment. It allowed me to get that weight off, allowed me to fight through that depression and that pain and that anger and that sadness and that numbness and that just going through the motions and taking life for granted. It broke me and freed me of that. And it came at a point where I was in a good place as far as career goes. I just done Def Poetry. How many of y'all remember Def Poetry? I know it was a while ago. But Def Poetry, there were tens and thousands of people trying to get on this show, and at the end of the day, they selected like 45 people from around the world. And by the grace of God, I was blessed enough to be one of those 45. Thank you. And I did this poem called I Need to Write. You may have heard it before. And and it was amazing because, you know, after that, I'd be on the streets and people just walking to me like, yo, I ran into Dave Chappelle one time in New York. And he was like, man, I remember you was one of my favorite poets. I was like, man, why this dude lying to me? He was like, yeah, you did that poem. I need to write. I was like, yeah, that was me, dog, yeah. So it exposed me to some beautiful things, but at the same time, on a personal level, I was really hurt and bothered because now at this point, my pops, he had passed on, and I couldn't correct the things that had been broken, you know, and now on top of all the depression and the anger and all these things, now I was feeling guilt for not reaching out the way I could have, you know, not calling, you know, and say, hey, how you doing? Or, you know, do you need anything? I just called to say I love you. That's it. I don't need nothing, you know. So I got to this point. My mom, she called me up one day. I was living in New York. And she's like, boy, what's wrong with you? I know something wrong. I know something going on. You ain't been talking to me. You ain't been talking to Tari. Tari was my girl at the time. Well, we had broke up. So we together now. We married now, so, but at this part of the story, we was like in between, like, you know, like when you break up but you still talk every day? I don't know what that is. It's like we was together, kind of. Anyway, so she was like, what's going on? You haven't been talking to me. You haven't been talking to Tara. I know something's going on. So for the first time since my pops had passed on, I decided to open up. And I told my mother how I felt about my father. And my mother lit into me. She listened, but then she lit into me. She said, look, your father was a good man. Let him rest in peace. And for me, you know, when your mama say something to you, you go listen, you know. So she already had my ear. But then, you know, it was the fact that here's someone who had been through the most with him, and she's speaking, you know, she's defending him. She's speaking towards him in a positive manner. I'm like, okay, yeah, he was a good man. You know, he was just hurt. He was hurt. You know, hurt people hurt people. You know, so here, you know, my pops, he was a good man, but he was hurt. You know, so but I was at this point I was able to empathize, and I decided I was tired of carrying his pain, and I wanted to write my way out of it. So I picked up the pen and the page, and I do what poets do. I don't know how we do. And I decided to write about it, and I wrote this poem called Dear Father. I wish you could have seen me do my thing. I wish you could have been there the first time I sang. I wish you could have seen how your baby boy flow. I wish you could have seen me rock just one show. I wish you could have seen me do my thing. I wish you could have been there the first time I sang. I wish that you didn't have to go. I wish you could have seen me rock just one show. Dear Dad, these words are being written and spoken because my heart and soul feel broken. I laugh to keep from crying, but I still haven't healed after all of the years of my goofiness and joking. You got me open, hoping this ill feeling will pass, won't last, or wear a mask. My peace won't ask for the truth. Truthfully speaking, the truth hurts, but I'm beyond hurting. I'm in pain. Why does it hurt so much? I find myself fighting with myself every day to remain sane. My peace think I changed, maybe tripping off my fame, but I'm still the same old James. I know it's a shame I don't come around as much, but I don't want them to see me acting strange. I don't want them to feel one drop in my rain, but I can't seem to get these feelings to stop. I can't get these thoughts on my brain now. When I really need to reach out for your dad and touch your hand, I can't believe you're out of range. I'm starving for your love and I'm begging, please ease the crave. When I was little, I thought you left because I wouldn't behave. Later on in life, I found out that it was a cane as well as other things. And with all the scars, it was hard, but I learned to forgive and forgave. I forgave him missing my basketball games and the touchdowns I scored at the football games. I forgave him coming home high and drunk, wrestling with my mother going insane. I forgave him missing all of my track meets and not being there to greet all the pretty girls that I wanted you to meet. I forgave him missing my birthdays and graduations and not being there when I needed advice in certain situations. I forgave despite the fights, the tears, for all the years lost, wondering if I was loved. Sometimes all I needed was a call and a hug. I mean, understand that people break up and don't make up and some relationships don't last forever, but why weren't we together? Mom could have found new man, but where was I gonna find new dad? Looking back, I wish would have begged me. He pleaded my case because I felt like I didn't matter, like I was deleted and erased. I would cry, still cry so much I get headaches. I try to get you on my mind, but I can't get you off of my face. I see you every time I see me, and I can't do nothing but ask God to bless me, expand my territory, place his hands on me, and keep evil far away from me. I asked him to protect me like I wanted you to protect me from the bullies and the police. Now to protect my soul, I write poetry and release. And some say I'm a beast, but I'm just trying to find peace so I can pick up a piece of me that's falling apart. I stopped all over love, and I ended up with a lot of good idols in my cart that help me pull out the dart and help me get out the dark. One being my art. But along the way, all of my decisions weren't so smart because my love was amputated. My life became complicated. My family, but Dad, I don't know if you knew or not, but my sweet, sweet family became dysfunctional. I mean, I remember hiding under the dining room table when you and Ma would fight. I remember dishes, pots, and pans being put in flight. I remember the hole that you punched in the wall. I remember when my calls were working, told not to let you in, or you broke in, so I'm gonna get y'all. I remember the alcohol and the smoke and going to the bathroom every 5 minutes so I wouldn't choke. I remember you called me out the blue and told me I had a brother that died that I never knew. I remember you snatched my training was off my little orange bike and making me ride when I was only 2. I remember you pushed Mom, she broke her ankle. I remember sitting there thinking, how could you do to such a beautiful angel? I remember Mom waking us up in the middle of the night saying, shh, Jimmy, be quiet. Put some clothes in the jewels bag. We going to grandma's, and if your father come up to your school, don't tell him where we'd be. I remember spending Christmas at grandma's playing with my Stretch Armstrong thinking, man, this ain't my house. I wonder how Santa Claus found me. I remember your stinky feet. I remember all that pepper that you would put in those ghetto meals that you would fix for us to eat. I remember listening to you on the radio, WVON, before I would go to school. I remember all those cars and planes that you were making. All the kids on the block thought that my dad was so cool. I remember when you ran down the car and I was thinking, man, dad's fast. I remember how you would curl your mustache. I remember the past. I remember the good and the bad. I remember thinking it's this love false. I remember us moving to the birds and my boys to place my love that was lost. And they made me laugh and giggle. And my boy even taught me how to dribble so I could make the team, and I did. I thought that I would die without you, but Rome, Drake, Ike, Egg, and Todd made sure that I lived and was never sad. They even gave me their dads. Mr. Kemp, Mr. Whitaker, Mr. Cross, and Mr. Price became my dads, my cool daddies, but the little boy in me still wants his daddy badly. I feel like a scared little boy, afraid to become a man, but I think I'm ready. I think it's time. I think it's time for me to shine and get mine. I think it's time for me to shine and get mine so I can ease my mind and let my soul climb. I think it's time to stand as a man of my own too, just how you used to do before those demons started hunting you, because all I want to do is to make you and my proud. And I wonder if you are. I wonder if you know. I wonder if you know that God gave me a gift. I wonder if you know about the spirits that I lift. I wonder if you know about the spirits that I lift. I wonder if you know I touch people with my words. I wonder if you know I inspire actions with my verbs. I wonder if you know that your baby boy did a show that aired for me to see on HBO, and that hard New York crowd that I didn't even know actually gave me a standing O. I know you're proud. I know you are, because I'm be the best just like you want to be. Watch and see. And just in case you can't, I'm going to scream it so loud that I shake the clouds and move them out the way of my sunshine, because that's what you are, Dad. James Ivy Richardson Sr., do you hear me? You are my sunshine. That's why I forgave you, because my love for you is still the same. It may have gone through a transformation, but it never really changed. So I swear on my mama and on my name, I'm going to stop this rain, conquer this pain, make sure that you did not die in vain. And when I get to heaven, I'm going to jump in your arms. We go kick back like when I was little and watch the Bears game. I wish you could have seen me do my thing. I wish you could have been there the first time I sang. I wish you could have seen how your baby boy flow. I wish you could have seen me rock just one show. I wish you could have seen me do my thing. I wish you could have been there the first time I sang. I wish that you didn't have to go. I wish you could have seen me rock just one show. One show. Thank you. So, thank you. So the moral of the story is, keep writing. If you're not writing, get to writing. There's so much power in your voice. There's so much value in the stories that you have experienced that you need to tell. And y'all know how it goes. If we don't tell our story, they go tell it, and you know they not go tell it right. There's going to be some facts left out, some things twisted, some people missing, some lies told, some disdain thrown on our beautiful, beautiful culture. And I noticed that, and I felt the power with every piece that I've been able to write and perform, with every piece that I've seen others write and perform. When something touches your spirit and your soul, you can't replace that. You know, that's something that they can't take from us. So for those that are here that have been doing it forever, and for just getting started with doing it, it's so important that we continue to tell our story. There aren't enough stories. We have to tell them all. You know, and there's enough room for everybody. That's what people get twisted. There ain't no competition, because there's only one you. There's only one you. You're the only person in the world with your set of eyes, with your point of view, with your experiences, with the collection of people that surround you to help make up you. and your city and where you're from and the legacy that you come from. There's only one you. And it's important that you tell those stories. So I know 10 minutes was probably 10 minutes ago, but y'all ready for me, Miss Connie? I got 1 minute. 1 minute. So I'm going to give you an example of the power of forgiveness. Quick, 15-second version of the story. I get a call from my buddy. My buddy, his name is Cootie. Cootie's a director. Cootie called me up and said, Kanye got this song with him and Jay-Z on it. He wanted to put a poet on it. Mind you, this is shortly after me writing Dear Father. After I wrote Dear Father, I'm on the mountaintop. It ain't nothing I can't do. What? Who need me to do what? Oh, okay. Calls me up. I call him back in 10 minutes with a poem. That's the short version, the story, you know. So I call him back, did the poem from over the phone, and he's going crazy, right? Oh, man, that's crazy. He's like, hold on. So he goes in another room. He's in the studio in L.A. I'm in Brooklyn, broke by myself in Bed-Stuy, but I'm having a good time. I'm writing. I'm chilling. I got food. I ain't hungry. I got some music on. I'm writing. I'm vibing. Yeah, I'm in New York. You know, I'm feeling good. So he calls me up, da-da-da. So he goes in another room, and he's like, Jay, put you on speakerphone. Spit the poem again. So I did the poem again, like I'd done it a million times already. And when I finished, the room erupted. Everybody, oh, man, that's crazy, that's crazy. I'm in Brooklyn by myself. Like, what's up? What's happening over there? What's good? So then I hear Kanye. Kanye like, man, Jay, spit it again. I spit it again, spit it again, spit it again, spit it again, I spit it again, spit it again. I did it for like a half hour. The poem was a minute long. So I did it over and over, like, no lie, I did it over and over and over again. And then when I finished, Cootie got back on the phone. He was like, Jay, guess what? I'm like, what? He was like, Kanye flying you out here tomorrow. I was like, man, I found my way. So if you heard the song before, I'm going to need a little help. Whenever you hear me say, get up, I get. Yeah. Get up, I get. Man, y'all, man, we in Memphis. We at the National Civil Rights Museum. Man, come on, man. In honor, let me say this. Oh, thank you. Yeah, we're going to make it real good. I'm going to get some water. It's going to sound real silky. See, that's my wife, Tari Teray. One of the most, don't let the camera fool you, please. She's one of the most incredible singers you will ever hear. And she's actually singing on this song on the record. It's her and John Legend singing on the record. So, would you care to, I mean, might as well, you know, be here. Might as well. Tari Teray, Chi-Town's finest from Inglewood. Inglewood. That's her voice. So she was singing on Family Business. She sang on We Don't Care, Jesus Walks. What was the other record? Her, like, basically the vocals throughout the album were John Legend and Tari Teray. Yeah, so that's her, right, you know. So that's who, and y'all know I gave John Legend name, John Legend. So, you know, this is a little Black History fact. Since we in a museum, I figure I'd say that. So, Miss Tari Teray. Oh, excuse me.
When it comes to being true, at least to me, one thing I found, although you never let me down.
Get up, I get. Get up, I get. Get up, I get. One thing up. Get up, I get. Get up, I get. Get up, I get. We all here for a reason on a particular path. You don't need a curriculum to know that you're a part of the math. Cats think I'm delirious, but I'm so damn serious. That's why I expose my soul to the globe, the world. I'm trying to make it better for these little boys and girls. I'm not just another individual. My spirit is a part of this. That's why I get spiritual. But I get my hymns from him, so it's not me, it's he that's lyrical. I'm not a miracle, I'm a heaven-sent instrument. My magnetic regiment navigates melodic notes to your soul and your mental. That's why I'm instrumental. Vibrations is what I'm into. Yeah, I need my loop by rent day, but that ain't what gives me the heart of Kunta Kinte. I'm trying to give us free like Senke. I can't stop. That's why I'm hot. Determination, dedication, motivation. I'm talking to you, my many inspirations. Well, I say I can't let you or self down. If I want the highest cliff, on the highest rift, and you slipped off the side and clutched on your life in my grip, I would never, ever let you down. And when these words are found, let it be known that God's penmanship has been signed with a language called love. That's why my breath is felt by the deaf, and why my words are heard and confined to the ears of the blind. I too dream in color and in rhyme, so I guess I'm one of a kind in a full house. Cause whenever I open my heart, my soul, or my mouth, a touch of God rains out. True. What? One thing God. Get up, I get. Get up, I get. Get up, I get. Me. One thing I found. Get up, I get. Get up, I get. Get up, I get. God bless you, Dr. Martin Luther King. Rest in peace, the Queen of Soul, Miss Aretha Franklin. Thank y'all so much. Thank you. Thank you to the National Civil Rights Museum. Drop the mic. Every single poet alive. Much love.
All right, let's go on into our panel. Jasmine, you might as well come on up here. You sitting there. You can be a part of, come on. So Jay Ivy and Ed Mabry. And we're going to do a panel. Oh, okay. Used to. Jay Ivy is something else, isn't he? Hey. Queen Sheba, Jonathan Eddie Samp. Everybody. There's just Jay Ivy, Ed Mabry, Queen Sheba, Jonathan Eddie. I'm going to stand right here.
Yeah, she was excellent. You was okay too. She was like, and then we took that picture outside the long room. I've been awesome. I've been excellent.
Because I actually thought you were leaving.
Who was with us?
You staying tonight? Well, I'll call on you from over there. Hopefully you all enjoyed your sessions. You got a chance to talk to each one of them about who they are and what they do. So what I want them to do now. See, they so out of order.
Yeah.
Tell us one quick thing about you that's not in here I noticed none of y'all said that you all have been to the National Civil Rights Museum, have performed at the National Civil Rights Museum. I need that in your bios.
Actually, it's in my CV.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
I even
One,
put this year in before I got here.
All right. We're going to start with you, Ed. Give me one thing that we ought to know about you, but we don't.
One thing you ought to know about me?
Yeah, that we need to know about you. Something interesting about you that is not in this bio, because they already read that.
I love anime, and I'm currently like on episode 274 of Bleach. What? And I love y'all, but I can't wait to get to my room and cut that on and binge like 10 episodes.
I love Great Danes. I used to own one. Yeah, Great Danes, the big dogs. Yeah, I'm a dog lover, but real dog, not the little dogs you can carry in your purse. Those dogs are a waste of life. But big dogs, big dogs, real dogs like German shepherds.
I can vouch for her.
What I mean,
Yeah, I can
Ed
vouch
and
for
I
the
used
dog.
to be roommates when I was in
Yes,
grad
y'all didn't know that.
school
We
in
was
Charlotte.
roommates. And
Yeah.
the dog is bigger than both of us combined. That dog.
And
was-
super smart, super sweet. Y'all talking about Great Danes, the big dog with a big head. Yeah, Scooby Doo, exactly. Yeah, yeah. So I love dogs like white people. Like I love dogs. They're amazing.
With that, Mackenzie, just stand up and give them one thing. One thing.
Why you ain't up here, Mackenzie? Why you ain't got a chair?
I think they're going to find you a chair, Mackenzie. But you know, you can wing it, Ed.
One thing about me that's not in my bio is I'm going to South Africa tomorrow to study abroad.
Yeah.
Put your mics up to your mouth, y'all, so they can hear you. That's why I thought you weren't going to still be here, because we knew that you had a big trip.
I'm here.
How long are you gonna be gone?
Until December 15th.
Excellent. Jonathan?
Oh, goodness. I'm about to start teaching creative writing in the Alabama prison system
Wow.
next month.
And when you get through with that, you're going to come to Tennessee and help out Tennessee inmates. All right.
So I well, speaking of dogs. No, we did have some Pomeranians when I was little, only because my grandmama gave them to us. I was a German Shepherd kind of guy myself, but we had Pomeranians growing up. But I love Brussels sprouts and ginger beer.
Oh yeah. Together?
Absolutely together.
Okay.
What? I make the mean. Y'all gotta have my world famous ginger sprouts.
Oh, great.
They world famous.
Nobody's heard of them.
Y'all know about that. That's it. That's it. Are they?
They off the chain. They off the chain.
All right, Jasmine.
I'm a yellow belt in karate.
What?
Yeah, that's. Well, I didn't know I would get cheers for that. So, guys, thank you so much.
So what came first for you? And anybody can answer this. Spoken word or activism?
I think I was taught activism because I was in spoken word. Actually, I learned about Mumia at my first open mic home. And so that's when I got involved. And I realized that we were supposed to be doing something with this, that our genre is responsible. Unlike other genres aren't necessarily responsible. Like hip hop is mostly fantasy, some facts. You know, ours, we have a responsibility to action.
Who else?
I think if you're a reader before you're a writer, which most people are, then
Put your mic up for you. Up to your mouth. Oh, it doesn't.
this is good.
There we go. It's on.
Okay. I think if you're a reader before you're a writer, which most people are, depending on what you're reading, I feel like you're an activist in that sense. Just like when you talk about reading about movies, I believe in that. Yeah, I remember reading Live from Death Row when I was in 7th grade. Um, so I think in that sense, you're an activist before you're a writer.
I I was a writer. I was a writer before I truly knew what activism was, because I was writing when I was like 9 years old, and I didn't know much, but I knew that I wanted to make things rhyme. But I found my activism in the music that I listened to and the poets that I listened to. And so I was listening to Tupac, didn't understand most of what he was saying, right? But he had this line in Unconditional Love where it was like, my goal is to be more than a rap musician, the elevator of today's generation, if I can make them listen. I heard that when I was like 10, and it was engraved in me, and it wasn't until like a couple years ago that I understood what that meant. And so I digested so much activism in hip hop before I truly understood what those words meant.
Who else?
Well, I like to echo what Queen was saying. For me, the activism, it came through poetry. You know, for me, I was just in love with writing. You know, I fell in love with writing and performing. Like, performing was really what was my first love, because I didn't have the confidence in the writing yet. I was good at writing notes to girls, but I didn't think that was a gift. You know, for real. Like, I could write a bomb note. I come from that era. We wrote notes. We didn't have, you know, texting and Snapchat, and we had to write our feelings. You know? So, but you know, as time progressed, you would be invited to different things, and not that I didn't see activism or my family wasn't part of it. My like for instance, when Medgar Evers got ran out of Mississippi, he landed at my grandparents' home. That's where he lived, and he taught my aunt and my uncle. He was their teacher, and my mother, well, my grandparents, they took their children, my mother and her brothers and sisters, to Emmett Till's funeral. So that picture on Jet magazine, that line of folks, my parents and my family members, but not my parents, but my mama and my aunts and uncles were in that line. So I come from that, have family that was preachers, and they did things in the community. But it wasn't until later on that you start to just really take on the responsibility of activism.
Yeah, I think it's dope. I think most people, most kids, but to put more of a fine point to it, I think every black person is an activist before they are whatever the other thing they are, because most of us stumble into activism. We moonwalk our way into it. It's an accident the first time around. Mm-hmm. Because it simply means to stand for something that's bigger than oneself, right? So I thought I was standing for something big, like when I told my mom, like, yo, you ain't gonna whoop me. Then that's
You're an activist.
like that was, and like many activists, I took the fall.
Exactly.
I took the fall the first time around. When you went for the whole, I'm running for class president in the 4th grade, and if you vote for me, I promise grilled cheese sandwich, like whatever it is, you do something, and then something inside you, your personal moral or spiritual compass, said that's not right. And the moment you stood up for someone else who was getting bullied, the moment you tried to diffuse a fight between friends, the moment you saw someone say something or do something, push a girl down, call someone a name and use a key, like, yo, that's not right. That was the beginning step of your activism. It's just you didn't take it and go, well, tomorrow I'm going to form a march and I'm going to get millions of other 5th graders together. But you still took a stance. And the moment you take a stance that's bigger than yourself, I believe that's activism. To piggyback and push further with Faith is saying, I think that's where we make mistakes as people, wondering how can we get involved or how can we make a change. And we worry about that global change instead of like, how about you just fix your block? Like, if you can just stop stupidity from happening on your block, and if we all fix stupidity on our block, that's
everybody block.
Yeah, like, because the MLKs, right, et cetera, like, come once every X generations, and those were also very happy accidents, right?
Right.
So if you just fix your block, like that's like you could be the MLK of your block, the Malcolm X of your block.
Didn't we talk about that today in workshop? Where are my people at? Where are my people at? Yeah, focus and narrow in.
That's all. Sorry, shut up.
So let's switch gears for a sec. Who inspired you? There's two parts to this. Because there's this general inspiration that you're getting from somebody. And then there's an artist that you think is doing it, and they have made some impact in your work. So first, who inspires you? Where do you get your inspiration from?
Well, if I'll jump in. There are three people for me. One was just my mama, because she was just this strong figure in my life, and she's a very don't take no mess type of person. She's not to be pushed over. She will not be pushed over, and she's always been one to strive to be better, whether it's through health. She's been a vegetarian / vegan for almost 30 years. She's a food activist. My mama walking that door right now. Within 30 seconds, all y'all go get a strong lecture about the food that we put in our body. But sorry, would you tell them? Lady P is her name. So, past my mother, I'm a hip hop head. So Slick Rick was one of my biggest influences when it came to hip hop, because of his storytelling and his flow and his swag and his confidence and just the way he delivered it and his voice. I always drew to that. But when I first started performing, went to that story that Miss Argue, when she had me perform, and I'm not trying to be cliche or anything, but when the first time I performed, I wanted to speak like Dr. King. I wanted to speak like Dr. Martin Luther King. I wanted to project my voice, and I wanted to find that power and affect people with the range that he just had in his voice. So those are the three that just come to mind off bat.
Queen?
Oh, man. I don't know if it's a couple who's, but more what's. And my biggest charge is Black women. That's what I write about mostly.
That was actually the next question.
Yes, Black women. And Black women artists that travel and move throughout the earth, quote unquote, on our own. I'm not saying that we're alone doing it in the travel, but on our own in the things that we do, because it can, and I don't want to romanticize it anyway, but it can be dangerous. Sometimes we venture into new countries, new territory. It can be lonely. We could have made sacrifices people don't see with our families, our children. I think we're bigger targets for ridicule for leaving our children behind, quote unquote, for going on the road and pursuing our dreams and trying to capture an intangible thing called spoken word and turn it into food and clothing and shelter and education and careers and et cetera. So I've gone through a lot of that in my tenure as a spoken word artist. So that's where I feel most inspired and protective is, and I guess the first thing that came to mind is my son. He doesn't understand. He's an athlete, and he doesn't understand spoken word because you can't hold it in your hand. It's not something like that. It's there's a comedian, Ed actually inspired me to go to comedy school too when we were roommates. And so during that time in comedy school, there was a comedian who said, if you have to start off explaining your job, it's not a job. So you can say, I'm a teacher, I'm a lawyer, I'm a doctor, and people already know that what that is. But if you're like, oh, I'm the dude at the factory that makes the little spring thing inside the pen, he's like, that's not a job. So that's kind, and I don't feel, and please don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying spoken word isn't a job. Obviously, all of us have made careers out of it. I'm saying it's still a thing that you kind of got to explain. And I unfortunately feel not enough sometimes. I told y'all earlier that I'm an avid runner. And of course, when you run with people, they're like, what do you do for a living? And I'm always like, I start with that all the time. And I don't feel, even after all these years, I just say, I'm a poet, I'm a spoken word artist. They're like, what is that? And I'm just like, so I'm like, it's like hip hop, but better, or hip hop without the music, or something like that. That's kind of where I go with it. And they're like, oh, they're like stand up comedy. I'm like, so. The sad one. It's like more like the bipolar comedy. It's a bipolar stand-up comedy. So that's my overall charge and inspiration, is to make spoken word a real thing. And I know that people get degrees in it. I mean, she's got one, I got one. People do it all the time. But I want it to be... they say you're not famous unless every household knows your name, like Michael Jackson, right? Everybody's like, oh, Michael Jackson, I know who that is. So until you can say, I do spoken word, and then people go, oh, I know what that is. That's what I want. That's where I'm striving for spoken word to be. Everything I do in my whole life is under the spoken word umbrella, even my health. The reason I started to get into running and fitness is because a poet told me, and I'm just quoting this, so please nobody get offended. I was offended. He said that I look like a fat Mexican and that I should start working out. I know, look at your faces, right? So, and that's exactly how I felt. And so I started working out. So that's kind of, I was like, all right, well, I don't want spoken word to look like this on stage. I want Black women to know that we can be awesome and fly and wear high heels and be dope and have something to say and have content and. So... all
right now, Queen, you taking us around the world.
My bad. I'm sorry. It's just a bunch of things that inspire. It's not like one. It's just the movement or the change to make spoken word tangible is my inspiration for writing.
One more.
I guess I'll go. We were talking about Ida B. Wells in my workshop, and I think I guess I'll give a shout out to this Black woman. She was a teacher of mine, my 6th grade English teacher, and she gave me all of the books that we weren't allowed to read in class, and books that were way too advanced for me. Like I was reading the autobiography of Assata Shakur, Black Foremothers, and in that book I learned about Ida B. Wells, and I was like, wow, this woman carried a truth that could get her murdered, and she carried it across the country. And so I guess that's kind of, that connects to poetry too, where like we carry a truth that all the time people don't want to hear, and that could be dangerous physically, but we do it. And then my mom, because I think my mom has sacrificed a lot, and then when she had her only daughter, she wanted to put in me everything that she did not put into herself. And a lot of that is because she couldn't. But some of it is also because she chose not to. And so she wanted me to be articulate. She wanted me to be really, really smart. Even when sometimes my intelligence conflicted with her rules of the house. You ever came home and your parents like, don't bring that college shit in my house? You ever felt that? And it's like, even when we were at odds, she wanted me to be smart, even when I felt like I was smarter than her. And so I think my mom, Ida B. Wells, and so many other women inspire me.
All right. That's cool. Next question. So we know Queen is writing about women. Jonathan, what do you write about?
Um, what do I write about? Black people.
And why? Because I think I also know why Queen writes about women. I think that was in what you gave us. So why black people?
Because I love being black. Every morning when I wake up, after I thank God for breath in my body, I make sure I'm still black. Okay. We're a beautiful, resilient, talented, amazing group of people, and we're necessary, and we're resisting, and we're fighting all this bull.
Yeah.
You know what I want to say. Insert expletive. I love black people. I love black people. I love the stories that we have to tell. And like Jay Ivy was saying, if we don't tell it, somebody else will horribly. You know, so it is our duty to tell our story and to tell our truths. And if we don't, who else will? So there's a lot of humor in my work. And I talk about black folks and timeliness, not being able to dance, having a broke down minivan. You can find me on YouTube with my crazy self, Jonathan Samuel Eddy, and no telling what'll come up. But I like writing about black people because I love black people.
Mackenzie, what you writing about?
I write a lot about my city where I'm from, Louisville, Kentucky. It's funny because so both Jasmine and I were in First Wave, and in First Wave, I would always say when I introduce myself, I say hi. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. My name's Mackenzie Berry. So I say where I'm from first, and that's really important to me. One, because I think Louisville, Kentucky is very underrepresented on the national map, and I think it's something that's a lot of history in Louisville is not known, though it was important for America at large. I also write about my childhood, my family. I remember I wrote a poem for my mom entitled "My Mother Had Hands Before She Had Children." And when I read it to her, when she read it, she started crying. She said, "I feel seen." And I thought about that because I think that's what I strive to do in writing about things. Like I hope when I write about my city that my city feels seen. I hope whenever I write about something that it feels seen. And I think writing about it is a way of seeing it and sharing that with other people. So that's me.
Ed, what you writing about?
Jesus. Show this.
I like when you write about the celebrities turned into political candidates.
You and Katy Perry, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
The human stain, more so than anything else, which is just another way of saying like human emotions, like what connects us all. Like regardless of color, shape, creed, we all feel. And if you can appeal to someone's emotions, then I believe you can appeal to their higher senses and realize that, if this thing hurts me and it hurts you, then we have this thing in common. It's the beauty about comedy. Richard Pryor is one of my all-time heroes because he would make a bunch of people laugh and then stop and say, see, now if we can all be in this room and laugh when we walk out the door, we should all be able to get along. And my process is if I touch you with a poem or the words reach out to you and you realize that you make eye contact with someone else in the room over a subject matter or a situation you didn't think you'd see eye to eye on, that maybe when you see that person down and out, you will think twice before judging them or twice before not being willing to help them out. It's the whole Ralph Ellison thing. I speak for those, who cannot speak for themselves. I speak for those on the lower frequencies. I speak for you. So I think I as an I speak in the lowercase and uppercase I. So that's who I'm speaking for. I speak for every person, every fat black kid who was born in Cincinnati and raised in Dayton and living in Columbus, every Cleveland, every Tempe, Arizona, Phoenix, every Tucson, every, Charlotte, everyone that thought they couldn't because this little nappy-headed kid did and didn't think he could. Like I live with imposter syndrome on a daily basis. So the aspect of being here isn't real until I take the pictures and post it. Then it's real. But if someone were to question, do I feel worthy of it, even sitting here, I cannot say no. But I appreciate You know, my mother say if someone's dumb enough to give you $1, be smart enough to take it. You know, if y'all foolish enough to invite me here, I'm smart enough to show up. And eventually, I assume at some point I will defeat that imposter syndrome and have the attitude of, well, no, I belong in this space. So I write for everyone who has felt like they didn't belong in their own skin. Because it doesn't matter what other space you're in. If you don't feel at home in your skin, then you're never at home. And I'm on a constant journey to find home. So my writing is me trying to find that home and then hoping that you don't have to go through what I went through, and something in there will be breadcrumbs, no matter if it's Katy Perry for president or whatever else, that you'll find that breadcrumb to get you home faster than me. You know?
All right. Jay Ivy, I know you have written a beautiful book about your dad, and we saw the performance. What else are you writing about?
That was amazing. That was amazing. I write about life. I write about things that inspire me, things that I see, relationships. Again, everything's wrapped in black, you know, because that is my experience. So a lot of it is the upliftment of black people. You know, I don't discriminate, but I'm definitely talking to my people first, because, you know, when I look in the mirror, I see my people, and a lot of times, like I refer to my writing as you know, I feel that we're instruments. You know, we're channeling stories from the ancestors, and I always compared it to, you know, to Catching Dreams. An album coming out, it's called Catching Dreams, because when I write, I sit, quiet myself, I listen, and whatever I hear, I write it down. I write it down, and that could be, you know, a little bit of, you know, any and everything. It may be comedic at times. It may be, you know, serious. It may be romantic. It may be, you know, something for my mother, or somebody might call me and say, well, work on this project, and you write a piece about Muhammad Ali or Michael Jordan, you know. So I write when things come to me, but it all centers around the upliftment of our people, and just shining a beautiful light on us, because that's what we deserve, and that's who we are.
Jasmine, what you writing about?
I write about tragedy a lot. I write about love a lot. The writing about tragedy comes from just what holds space in my mind. And so it's always kind of black tragedy as well. So I write a lot about the things that I see and hear and have felt in my own community. And then I write about love. I'm a queer woman of color, so I think it's important to put out on stage a narrative of women who fall in love with one another, and women who break up with one another, and women who love one another. And I had this quote that I wrote recently, and it was just like, it's okay. No one ever taught black girls how to love each other. And I was like, wow, there aren't too many narratives in the world about black girls who love black girls. And so that has become a charge of mine. And then I love writing about rappers, because I think hip hop is one of my first loves. And so it comes so naturally to talk about and to think about rap music. And so, yeah, that holds the most space: love, tragedy, and rap music.
So is there this battle between rap and spoken word?
No.
No, I don't think it's a battle.
Queen Sheba.
Well, since we opened the gates here, I have a production called Poetry versus Hip Hop, and you can find us on Instagram.
What
Poetry versus Hip Hop.
What wins more?
Poetry always wins.
For real?
Yeah, there were only a few cities. Poetry versus Hip Hop has been on the road for 3 years. We come to Memphis every year, and
you have
where's
some folks in
Karen
the
at?
audience that knew you were going to be here because they have followed you.
Where's
Yeah.
Karen at? Karen? Oh no. Is she okay? Who's been to Poetry versus Hip Hop Memphis?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Word up.
Yeah. Poetry versus hip hop. Memphis, the first year was 200 people. This last year, because we come on Black Friday. So last year was 650 people. What was the name of that venue that we were at? The Mexican restaurant. Azul. We were at Azul. So we travel around the country doing a show called Poetry versus Hip Hop, and it's great. But poetry mostly wins. And it's not because people don't like the hip hop artists. They're just waiting for the hip hop artist to say something more emotional or hit them in the chest harder than the poet. That's all they're waiting for. They're not against the hip hop artists or anything like that. They really enjoy both aspects, but they're just waiting for the hip hop artist to come off of being normally superficial. If they, if anything happens that they talk about their mother or something personal, then hip hop wins. But if they stick to, the narrative that we're used to hearing, then then the poet always wins. So it's, it's great. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook, So how far is Chattanooga from here? Oh, shoot. Sorry. We'll be in Chattanooga Friday. Sorry. What time?
What time?
All day. 8 o'clock. We're 8 o'clock at the airport.
All right, we'll find out about that in a minute. That's great. That's great. We always get that question, though, if there's this battle between hip-hop and poetry. We also get the question of what's the difference between poetry, spoken word, and rap.
Can I say one more thing? One more thing. Mm-hmm. Hip-hop artists will say they're poets, where poets won't necessarily say that they're hip-hop artists.
Yeah, that's me.
So what's the difference? Poetry, spoken word, rap.
So one, poetry is apparent to these other mediums, right? Poetry existed long before rap, long before spoken word. So that's one thing. I would not put them all on the same scale. Rap is more lyrical, right? Rap came out of not only spoken poetry, but bebop and different forms of sound, right? But then spoken word is the action of performance. That a writer, like an author who doesn't perform, would not necessarily call themselves a spoken word poet. And so I think that spoken word deals in the action of performance poetry. Poetry is the state of writing, and rap music is a musical form that wouldn't exist if poetry and bebop didn't.
Here's my elevator pitch when people say, what's the difference between poetry and spoken word? So poetry is written first, heard second, if ever. Whereas spoken word is heard first, possibly written second, if physically, if ever. So there's a short version of everything she said. And hip-hop artists, they just want to be us.
All day.
Hip-hop rappers become rappers when they can't win the poetry slam.
Hey, shots fired. Shots fired.
Don't repeat that outside of this room, okay? That is not.
Turn the camera off. Turn the camera off.
So are there some rappers in here? I'm sure.
But you ever saw the rapper at the poetry slam? It's a tragedy to see a rapper at a poetry slam.
There's a reason.
We're just waiting for you to finish.
Slam. That's another art form to share, and I'm sure we're gonna see some of that. We'll see at open mic,
and we don't want to discourage anybody. Rappers, if you're in the open mic, still compete in the open mic. I mean, still be in the open mic.
Absolutely. So, what does success look like?
That's personal to a person. It's different for everybody.
Yeah. So, what does it look like for you?
I'll say this real quick. I'll say this, and this, you touched on it on your run, on your jog. You touched on it. Like people ask me, they say, you meet somebody like, what do you do? I'm like, I'm a poet. Oh, okay, that's cool. So what do you do? I'm like, I'm a poet. Like, okay, I get that, but what do you do? I'm like, I write poetry.
You make money at that?
To me, that's
You have
success.
to be a teacher.
To me, success is doing what you love to do and being able to sustain yourself and your family from that. And as long as there's happiness attached to it. That part.
Another thing I learned in comedy school was that not to label yourself something if you can't pay your rent at it consistently.
Oh, wow.
So you can't say, I'm a spoken word artist, like as a living. If you're saying, if somebody says, what do you do for a living? And you can't say, I'm a spoken word artist if you can't consistently pay your rent at it.
People that was in my class.
Artist or a comedian or whatever.
I was going to say, Ed, your class was all over this. So what does success look like, Ed?
Right now, it looks like them rolling their eyes at me. Deal with it. I told you I wasn't lying.
They still trying to calculate what happens in a month because that was tough.
It's pretty much what Brother Ivy and Sister She said is determining on your own level. Success at this point for me in 2018 is defining it for yourself. All the rules have been broken, and every fact that you were told and that your parents were told was a lie. If you are in America, I'm not even speaking racist. It's a lie. When you have anybody familiar with Uber, Lyft?
Yeah.
You understand 99% of people do Uber and Lyft aren't doing it because they want to do it. Because they got to do it. You know what I'm saying? It's like an old Walmart joke, like comedy. Like you don't make fun of people that work at Walmart. Don't make fun of people who work at Waffle House. They did not choose to be there. So they've already been laughed at enough in their life. So the idea, so whatever rules you thought, whatever you thought was going to work, stock options work somewhere for 19 years. They fire you in the 20th year. You thought your pension was going to work. You thought health insurance was going to kick in. So success is what's going to make you happy. How are you going to leave a contribution to this world to leave it better than when you came in? And then how are you going to improve or ease someone's life that comes after you? Like if you do those three things, and you get a carbon footprint on stuff, do those three things, then to me you are winning. Period. I don't care if you make minimum wage. I know a cat who's an usher in New York for one of the Broadway spots. And what he gets is free tickets to shows. But he said his entire life, all he ever wanted to do was be an actor on Broadway. But he knew he couldn't cut it. So he spends an entire life. He said, I literally have enough after each check to last me to the next check. He's like, but I see Broadway shows 10 times a week for the rest of my natural life. And I was like, bro, that's actually pretty sexy. That's actually pretty sexy. So success is just that. It's having peace of mind. It's having your health, right? It's having family and friends. It's having a circle and a tribe around you that supports and loves you. It's you being accepted on your terms for who you are, where however you choose to title yourself, it's making this planet accept your name. That's why I personally, I don't knock anyone for the record. I don't knock stage names. But to this day, people still spell my name wrong on checks, on Facebook when they're on my page. So when people say, how can you live this day? Because I'm still trying to fit my name in my mouth. I'm still trying to love how my name comes out of my mouth. I'm still trying to appreciate how it comes out of someone else's mouth. So to me, success will be, like success is that. Success is my mama going, yo, I saw you at the King commemoration, which is one of only two things she's ever like celebrated. That and when I met Denzel. So like that being like, you know, like, oh, you good? She'd be like, that was my son. Like, oh, then I'm good. Y'all can kiss my butt. My mama said I'm good, you know? So I say all this, like success is your definition.
Yeah.
Whatever we say, add it to yours. But it's your definition. But by under no circumstance, if you don't take anything else, I'm sorry I'm preaching, from our workshops, from the open mic, from the slam tomorrow, from everything, define your term of success and then live by that. If you have that, don't let anyone convince you that you lost. Just don't. You didn't lose, you won. They lost because they were hating on your version of success. They're probably just jealous.
Preach on, preacher.
That's it. Sorry.
This is the last question. And you got 15 seconds each
Blue.
to answer. Right. Why are you a poet? And we're going to start with Jasmine and go all the way down. Why? Why are you a poet?
was a charge from God. I can't say that I made a decision one day. I was about 8 years old when I saw my first poem, and since then I've been doing poems. And so it has to do something between God, Tupac, and Maya Angelou. They kind of conspired my journey.
That's a T-shirt, isn't it?
You know how when you lose something, or you think you lost something, and it's right there, and you know how the old folks say, like, if it was a snake, it would have bit you. I feel like that's what poetry was. Not that it's a snake, but it was something that was always there. I think it was always on my heart, my spirit, and I had this wonderful, wonderful teacher who was also a Delta who pointed it out, and she, yeah, Delta's been a part of my whole life, you know. It was something that was pointed out, and immediately I loved it. It was natural. It was like breathing, you know. So I love it because it's me.
Wayne?
I think Ed was talking about making our mark on the earth, and I think it's the thing that I'm most effective at.
We were still waiting on you to keep talking.
I was only 5
Like 15 seconds, 15
You
seconds.
were shocked that you were through.
You got 10 more.
Go on.
My first poem was at 7, and it was still a bug, you know. I just
You better jump in there, Jonathan.
For me, it's I gotta live, and it's how I breathe. It's how I heal. It's how I communicate. It's how I work, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
I think for me, it's always been in me, but I also think I'm on a quest to name things. So I always think when people say I don't have the words to express how much I love you, I'm on a quest to find those words.
She had time to think about her answer.
Don't be hating this side of the panel. Don't be hating on the side of the panel. We had our moments too now. Come
All right, wrap it up then.
Some people are spoken to and some people are spoken through. I am one of the spoken throughs, and I accept that. I did not, but I do now as a conduit. I accept the term and the challenge of being a griot or griot, how you want to say it, and all that it comes with that, and being a link in this chain of the Black Arts movement here in America.
We are the new Black Arts movement.
There you go. Absolutely you are. Thank you to Jasmine and Jay Ivy and Queen and Jonathan and Mackenzie and Ed.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
So now, Connie, do we need to make any announcements before we go downstairs? Absolutely. Well, the worst thing in the world is to have some artists on stage and no audience to watch. So you all need to all get up and go.
I have a question
to
for
the
Connie and
theater.
Faith. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Is there something going on tomorrow that anybody in the room should know about?
Well, the Poetry Slam
Where might that be?
at the Paradise
At the
Entertainment
Paradise
Center.
Entertainment.
I'm gonna perform if y'all want.
I'm
to see me
hosting.
perform.
Yeah.
I would love for y'all to come.
All of them except Mackenzie, because she got other things to do,
South Africa.
Right.
will be performing or judging or hosting Poetry Slam. And this is where we have poets 14 to 35 in 3 age categories competing for prize. cash
Millions
prize.
and millions and millions of pennies.
All right, right. So plan to be there tomorrow.